Well, it's Tuesday, October the 2nd, 2007. I'm sitting outside a Dillard store in Wichita, Kansas, doing what husbands and wives often do. Wait for the other one. But since I'm trying to get these things done and said, I don't mind this wait at all. This is Tuesday's Wichita Eagle. And the gentleman writing this article is a Clarence Page, a name I don't know. But, gee, did I like what he wrote. Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly has been, in my book, too much of a right-winger, follow-the-bush line, claimed to be objective when hasn't sounded objective to me. But here he is, guilty of the same thing I'm guilty of. If you followed some of my earlier remarks about black education, you know, I got told a couple of times that you're not particularly being racist, you're just ignorant. I was, and I am. That's not why I call myself ignorant turtle or ignorant country turtle, but I know I still say things I shouldn't say and have thoughts I shouldn't have that are just kind of ingrained in there, that they come out without really rational thought. I have been around enough that I wouldn't have made the mistake that Mr. O'Reilly made by being surprised that there's a whole nation of black people that are just as sophisticated, just as Americanized, just as normal Americans as any of the Anglo, Italians, Germans, American Indians, or whoever you think's the real Americans. Fox's Bill O'Reilly. And Mr. Page says, Clarence Page says, is he a racist? My answer is no. Ignorance about race, I'm quoting him, does not always make you a racist, but it can make you sound like one. Well, having been there, Mr. O'Reilly, I understand, and I'm glad you are not truly a racist. And how decent of this Clarence Page, whoever he is. He must be a columnist, a writer of some renown, or they wouldn't have picked him up in the Wichita Eagle here with an article. Maybe he's a local Wichita man. I don't know. But how nice of you, Mr. Page, to cut Mr. O'Reilly some slack. I want to quote from you again, Mr. Page. What O'Reilly doesn't seem to understand is the weariness that black Americans feel over constantly being compared to our community, and he's talking about our black community, to our community's worst role models, while white people want constantly to be judged by their best. Now, being a fellow is not happy at all with Mr. George W. Bush, the professed Christian that sponsors, arranges, however you want to look at it, tolerates spying, torture, and so on. I'd hate to think that the whole world thinks all of us, quote, American Christians are like President Bush. Well, Mr. Page goes on to say that he gives Mr. O'Reilly credit because at least he got some dialogue going here that might help a lot of people wake up to what they think and why they think what they think. He says, O'Reilly, my greater fear than hearing O'Reilly talk himself into a politically incorrect hole is the silence of people who are afraid to say anything about race for fear of offending someone. We need, I'm quoting now, we need more candid talk about race and class these days, not less. Continuing to quote, let's give O'Reilly credit for trying to widen his horizons. Lucky Bee, if you're out there watching this one, I want to react a little to you about Tulsa. No, I'm too young to have been around to have heard anything as a youngster about Tulsa. And I'm going to tell you that it doesn't matter where you are, the newspaper, the city council, the good established reverends that want to see peace and tranquility are slow to ever admit that there's a real problem in our community. This same edition of the Wichita paper is full of reporting mass numbers of the leading gang in Wichita, Kansas being indicted, and the scope of the investigation is widening. Well, I've been in more than one community, including Alamosa, Colorado, when we had that situation that could have resulted in a fatality and would have put us on the national news as a terrible place. Look at this. They're letting little kids get killed in a racially tension parade situation. You should have seen, in fact, I'll probably get back to that soon. You should have seen the article in the Alamosa paper the next day. You would have thought it was a little brunch and tea arranged by the management. Why, nothing about how scary it was, nothing about how everybody had been threatened and warned and you're going to have to let out school and so on. It was just a nice gathering. Just a nice gathering. I've been in Tahoe when they were having gang trouble, and we don't admit that we've got gang trouble. I've been in Alamosa, Colorado when they were having gang trouble, and we don't really have gangs here. I was in Yuma, Arizona when I picked up a paper and read an expert's opinion. We don't really have gangs in Alamosa because gangs kill, and nobody's been killed here. Within weeks, months of that newspaper article, somebody's got killed. Oh, how awful we are as we put our heads in the sand. Anyway, lucky, somewhere there is the written report of that Tulsa horrible night when they burned out most of the black community. And if you research it on this marvelous machine, the computer, I bet you'll find it. God bless you all.